Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another live Wednesday night edition here on the Rock Pile. Before I start the show, I want to make sure I thank Mr. Zayudo for coming on last week with me. Becky was fantastic, and I'm glad she was able to join me, talk about Mohawk Valley signs and solutions. So thanks, Becky, for taking the time last week. And if you're watching tonight on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the channel. You can also catch any of the interviews from the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch on Saturday mornings. In the new feature this week and going forward every week here on the Rock Pile, we're now live on LinkedIn. If you have any questions for tonight's show or any of the shows on here, just put your questions in the comment box on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and I'll make sure to bring over as many questions as I possibly can throughout the broadcast. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Crust, Destito and Frank Belmont, the new owners and partners of Crust Kitchen and Bar right up here on base. I'm excited. A lot of people have reached out to me saying they're looking forward to tonight's show. We were talking a little bit before going live, and I said, we got to have any breaking news tonight. They're not going to have the answers to some of the questions, but at least we'll get a little bit more insight from both of them tonight. So let's bring them on screen here. Let's see if we can grab them on. There's Chris. There's Frank. How we doing, guys?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How we doing? How's everybody tonight? Good?
Yeah, we're doing good.
All right, good to know. So listen, guys, a lot of people were excited, and I know you guys said you're not going to have all the answers to some of the questions tonight, but a lot of people excited to learn more about Crust. So I want to kind of start first. How did the relationship with you guys start? How do you know each other? And tell us a little bit about yourselves.
So Frank has worked for my family for a long time, like 22 years now, I think.
22 years, yeah.
Wow.
I have been a part of my family for 30 years.
Yep.
So, I mean, we always kind of cross paths. I started bartending at Turning Stone when I was 18. And Frank was working there. So that was kind of our first real introduction to getting to know each other. Time went on. He left and then came and sorry, I'm telling your story, but it kind of intermingles with how our story. Yeah. He left and then he came back and he was running the beaches. And then I was working at the Savoy and I'd pop up to the beaches and see him and hang out. Then the beaches closed. Frank came to work at the Savoy with me. I was running the Savoy at the time. And we just kind of hit it off and
we've come a
started
long way since, back when you used to eat chicken tenders in the break room at the beaches many years ago.
Yeah.
So, I got to ask this question, guys, and I'm going to jump around a little bit because I always do. But, a lot of times you hear in businesses and startups and even not startups, but sometimes going into business with a partner has its challenges, right? A lot of ups and downs. How are you guys ready to deal with that? Because I'm sure there's going to be times you guys are going to agree to disagree, and sometimes that can be challenging. Talk to us about that.
So there's two things to that. Yeah. So me and Chris are very adamant about our yin and yang. The things he's proficient at, I might not be, and vice versa. So that's been super helpful in our business relationship, as far as getting things moving and off the ground, etc. The other part to that is we understand that though we don't disagree too often, there's going to be those times that we might. So, Chris, I don't know if you want to talk about the coin flip clause.
So when we had our partnership agreement drawn up, our attorney was very adamant about, well, you guys are 50-50 partners. What are you going to do if there's like deadlock? And like, we hadn't really thought about it. And we were like, I don't know. And then she kind of put in like a bunch of lawyer stuff. And like, the more we were thinking about it, I'm like, can't we just put like a coin flip clause in there? Like, if it gets to the point where we just really can't come to a decision, like we'll flip a coin and whoever wins gets to decide what we do at that point. But
how about ping
she
pong? Maybe you
didn't go
guys
for
can
that.
play like ping pong or something. The winner take all or something like that. But
I know I might be a little rusty at that.
So you guys,
Yeah.
how about the business plans though? When did you guys start thinking about the business, and how far back does it go? And just kind of take us through that journey if you can.
The business plan goes like, I mean, it started off as a joke. It's
definitely
it started
pre-COVID.
off, yeah, it was like probably 3 years ago. It started off like us kind of just working at the Savoy, venting to each other about
business and
everything we didn't like about, not so much the Savoy, but like the restaurant business in general. I mean, there's just things that no matter where we've been, who we've talked to, all the problems are the same. So we just didn't, we kept talking and saying like, this would be the best way to do this, and this would be that. And the more we kept talking, the more we kind of realized that we might actually have something.
We were inadvertently building something, really. We just, the more we talked about what the perfect place would be for the area and for us, and the cool ideas we had and things like that, the more, we didn't quite realize what was going on until the opportunity presented itself.
When did you guys have that moment when you guys were talking? And I know you can be shooting a breeze over bourbon and beers, and sometimes you get a few in you, you start talking crazy. But did you ever have that time where you sat there and you said, you know what? I think we can actually do this.
So
kind of.
Yeah, kind of. So there was this period of time. It was a little over 2 years ago now. Air City Lost had been announced. They didn't really have much more than that. It was right around the groundbreaking. Actually, a little before the groundbreaking. I got introduced to Kate Jarash, who's the asset manager for Benaccio. And this is obviously after Frank and I had been working together at the Savoy, and we had talked about this whole crazy idea we had. And Kate was like, we're looking for restaurants. Would you be interested in doing something? And I was like, yeah, I would. So I took this meeting with Kate with Frank not knowing. So I told him one day at work, I'm like, listen, I have to go somewhere for like an hour. I'll be back. It's like, okay. So I got back, and I have a really bad poker face. And I just, you can tell when I'm hiding something, or like just I want to tell you something, but I know I can't at that moment. So I tried to pretend like I didn't have anything to say. So then Frank goes, go to the office, come to the office with me. So I go to the office, and he's like, what are you not telling me that I can obviously tell you want to tell me? I'm like, so remember that whole like vent session we've had where we talk about the perfect restaurant and what we would do differently and how we would run it? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you still want to do that?
I don't think I skipped a beat.
He's like,
okay.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I think I found a location. I was just talking to the Air City Lofts, and they want another restaurant. And he's like, okay, I'm in. And I mean, at that point, we had a lot of stuff we needed to get done to get into that, but we didn't quite make the first cut, but we were the most persistent, I guess. And there was another restaurant that was involved. They're no longer involved, but it was about a year that went by that we didn't think we were going to be able to do it because they had a lot of non-competes, and it just didn't make sense for us to go forward with Crust with all those non-competes. And then I don't know what happened with them. I don't even really know who they were, but they backed out basically, and they said, you can do whatever you want. and we're like, all right, we're in.
And I think you guys were one of the first businesses to lease space up there, right?
We were the first business.
We were the first, yeah. I mean, we were the first, even though we moved spots quite a few times. We definitely got everything done first. We had a few different floor plans.
So how did you guys come up with the name Crust? How'd you arrive at Crust Kitchen and Bar? Where'd that come from?
I had a really bad name, and then Frank wrote something. Frank gave me a different cover to our business plan, and it said Crust Rustic Gourmet on it. And I'm like, all right, I like Crust. Drop the Rustic Gourmet. Use Kitchen and Bar. We got a name.
I just thought it should be something simple that obviously had to do with what we were doing. And every time I kept thinking about like the sandwiches we had been talking about and creating and things like that, all I could think about was that nice crunchy crust on the bread. And you bite into it, you get that crunch. And I just kept saying crust over to myself. And then eventually I was like, well, why not that as the name?
And for the record, we will not have any pizza whatsoever.
No pizza here.
I was going to ask you about the menu stuff, and we'll get into that. And I was thinking at first when I heard the name Crust and you guys posted it on Facebook, I'm like, they got to have pizza.
No.
So, okay. So that was one of my questions down the road. So you just answered that one. I'll check that off.
We even took, I took the actual definition of crust and I turned it into a graphic, which is going to be on our wall, that actually says the hard outer layer of a loaf of bread not to be distinguished by the crust or the crumb.
So you guys, I started doing this show, I was telling you a little bit before we came on, right during the pandemic, and I had a lot of businesses on early on, and we talked a lot about COVID. You guys are starting a business kind of in the middle of, I don't know, I guess you can say during COVID, middle of COVID, however you want to put it. Talk to us about some of the challenges it's been for you guys during COVID time.
So I'm going to just give a little. So our restaurant name is Crust. We have Crust Kitchen and Bar. Our restaurant or LLC is called Folie à Deux Restaurant Group, which translates to shared madness between two people. So that is kind of how opening a restaurant during a pandemic, it kind of sums it all up. I mean, we were absolutely insane because a lot of restaurants were closing. Restaurants were shut down, dining rooms. I mean, we realized very quickly that actually part of our business plan, which is takeout, was a good route to go. Working at the Savoy, we had to do takeout only. And for the longest time, it was me, Frank, and our chef, Dustin. And we were doing dinners for a lot of people every night that we were open. And it was all we could really do. And then as time went on, it got busier and busier. And then we got to bring more people back to help with takeout. But it was nuts. It was fun. We enjoyed it more than I can ever remember enjoying working in a restaurant.
It was a lot of hard work, but we're used to it. But we did it. We definitely had a good time with it because that's all we really could do. But I will say we inadvertently kind of made our business plan beforehand, but inadvertently it worked out to kind of being the correct one for the situation we're in, because we really wanted to focus on takeout and delivery options and online ordering and having up-to-date technology and stuff like that. So to make it as easy as possible for people to get food, and kind of seeing where the times we're in now, it just kind of all makes sense either way. I mean, luckily that's kind of the direction we chose to go.
And you guys, you started touching a little bit about on the introductions, Chris, and I'll get into your background with the family business. But Frank, talk to us a little bit about yours. I know you spent over 20 years in the restaurant business. Talk to us a little bit about your past, your career, and experience in the restaurant business.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started out probably one of the most proper ways. I was a dishwasher as soon as I could get my working papers. I basically did that, worked my way up through the ranks at the beaches, actually. I I did every job possible there. And I decided that the restaurant business is kind of in my blood, as a lot of people do. So I ended up going to school for restaurant management and professional cooking. And I got back out of doing that, and basically the Destitos picked me back up and had me running catering operations for them up at Turning Stone. So I did that for a few years, and then just the timing is what it was. And they, as soon as that adventure was done, they brought me over to run the beaches, which I did for several years.
And Chris, I know. Oh, go ahead, Frank.
No. And then I ended up going down to the Savoy once we decided the beaches was going to get closed, and me and Chris kind of picked up.
And Chris, how hard was it for you? I know you grew up in the family business, but I know you had wrote a nice long post when it was your last day at the Savoy, and you're now going into your own business. How tough was that for you, and what were your thoughts as you walked away?
All right, so I got to be honest with you. I meant every word in that post that I wrote, but as a lot of people who really know me, I'm a very sarcastic person. So yes, it was a very hard decision for me to leave my family's business. There was times we obviously knew from a while ago that we were doing this, and contracts were signed, and there was really no turning back. And I hadn't told my uncles yet. I really hadn't told anyone yet, but I specifically hadn't told my uncles because there was this pit in my stomach. And it got to the point where I was getting so stressed out about them finding out before I told them. I mean, we covered every base we could because I didn't want them to find out from someone else. I wanted to be the one that told them. So, I mean, going back, our LLC didn't have our LLC was Faliadu Restaurant Group, had nothing to do with any of us. We had a PO box. I mean, Kate at Bonaccio was basically sworn to secrecy. She wasn't going to tell anyone that she was just going to say it's Faliadu Restaurant Group. So it finally got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore, and I sat my uncle down and cousin Donnie down and told him, and I'm like, Frank and I have an opportunity. It's one we can't really pass up, and it's the hardest decision I've ever made, and I think we have to go for it. And I will say, without them skipping a beat, they both were like, go for it, do it.
They definitely couldn't be more supportive.
Yeah, and even to this day, my uncle Ori comes down and comes to Crust and wants to point things out that he thinks we should do differently, but it's good.
So let me ask you guys, social media, and I've asked this a lot with all my guests, social media obviously has taken over the world, right? With Facebook, Instagram, I mean, you name it. I mean, we're doing this show tonight across 3 different social media platforms. How are you guys? Are you guys going to be active on that? How are you guys use that right now to advertise? What's your thoughts right now on social media for you guys?
I want to have a YouTube channel.
Big. Yeah, when we find a sliver of time, we definitely love to have a YouTube channel, and do some fun stuff. I mean, as far as all the social media outlets, obviously they're super important. We're working with a great ad agency that's directing us and giving us a lot of help, and that's C&D Advertising. And Jen over there has been instrumental in helping us get all that stuff together. And making sure we're successful.
So talk to us a little bit about the menu, guys. I know you guys are going to have soup, salads, sandwiches, and like we can get into some of the sandwiches, but how'd you guys come up with the menu? How'd you guys come up with the different soups and salads? Talk to us about maybe a little creativity and just how you guys arrived at all this.
Frank, you talk about the food. Yeah. I'll talk about what we named it.
That's fine. So a lot of it came from, we were doing a lot of catering jobs, and we wanted to try to do some new, cool, different things. So we were experimenting with some different sandwiches and things of that nature. And a couple of them we really liked, and then we, again, and talking as much as we were about how much we liked sandwiches and, that being kind of the framework for what we were doing. We started talking about other stuff that we happen to like, whether it be, Chris's prime rib sandwich from New York City, or, this awesome Cuban I had at a different place. So we kind of started crafting something like that. And another thing we thought was missing was, if you go to get a sandwich, most places, you're getting your typical, name brand deli meat, as opposed to something that we like to use, which is like, real roasted meats. So that became another core of what we were doing. We're going to be roasting our meats in house. They're going to be nitrate free, not pumped up with liquids and preservatives and stuff. We're actually roasting, French cut turkey breasts and prime rib, and we're baking our own hams and things like that. So, I mean, all the quality of what we're planning on putting out is going to be a lot higher in our opinion than, some of the other places are doing at this current time. So,
and how about some of the sandwiches? I got to say, I was reading a couple of the articles on some of the names. Negotiator, the lawyer's lunch. Talk to us about the names. Some of them are pretty cool.
So, I don't know how long ago, but we were talking about like what we were going to name them. And I was like, Frank, we can't just name them what they are. I'm like, I'm sick of going somewhere and ordering a BLT. I'm like, so I don't care what the actual sandwich is, and I don't care, but we have to like name it after something. And then as we were kind of talking about it, I'm like, why don't we name them after like people or experiences that we've had? I'm like, there's a lot of people that have helped us get to this point. It hasn't been easy. Some people have pushed us a little bit. Some people have told us you're being crazy. Some people have just thrown gas on our fire and let us go. So, I mean, we were talking about, I'm like, let's like pick some people that really helped us. And let's not name it after them, but name it because of them. So like our flagship sandwich is called the Negotiator, and that's named after Kate from Bonaccio, which I'm not sure if she actually likes the name and the description.
We haven't gotten a straight answer from anybody.
We've been talking to like some of the guys from Bonaccio, and they're like, oh yeah, Kate's really excited about that sandwich. And they like say it with this kind of like, she can't believe you guys named that sandwich after her. But we love Kate. She's a big part of why we're here, but she got named the Negotiator. And then our attorney, the lawyer's lunch. I mean, she's a very good attorney. We like to call her like the mom figure. She's telling us what is like not okay and what we should and shouldn't do. And so we give her a lot of credit for directing us in the right way, business-wise. Then we have the Banksy, which is named after Adirondack Bank. The description for that one is, we don't know how we convinced them to give us money to open a restaurant during a pandemic, but they did. So the sandwich is for them. And then we wanted to create kind of like not a real emotional connection to the sandwich, but we wanted to give it personality. Like, yeah. So there's a reason why we called it what we called it. not every sandwich will be named after something, but the ones that are, we will have a description. We're going to have drinks named after people too. But we wanted to create more than just you like the sandwich, the way it tastes.
Part of this is really like, I mean, we want to have fun with what we're doing because there's no point in doing it. I mean, it's a hard working business. It's a hard business. So if we're not having fun and enjoying it, it's kind of, what's the point of doing it? So, I mean, part of having fun is just kind of being goofy and doing these things like, kooky names for sandwiches and stuff like that. But, we wanted to make sure our personalities were coming out a little bit too, and the things we're putting out.
So you guys will have to educate me when you guys open up, because I'm not a bourbon guy at all. I'm kind of the sissy pants. I'm the vodka guy or a beer guy, but I definitely will come in and try a bourbon. You might have to coach me on maybe something really soft and mellow to start. I can't hit the hard stuff right out of the gate. But talk to us about the bourbon piece. I know you guys said you're big bourbon drinkers. Is that how the bourbon piece came into this?
No. The bourbon piece came into this because of Lori Frieden. We had talked to her. She obviously knew we were opening this place. And we were talking to her about different things, and she knew how much we liked bourbon because we would always talk about bourbon with her. And we told her that we were going to have a large selection of bourbon. So she did an article with the OD, and this was like the biggest kept secret for the longest time, and to this day I still don't understand how we actually pulled it off as a secret. Because,
I still think props to everybody for
being
able to do
things in Rome. If one person hears it, everyone hears it. So this stayed hush hush for the longest time. But she did an article with the OD, and she was saying how there's these two guys from Rome. They've been in the industry for a while, and they're opening this soup, salad, and sandwich place, and they're going to have a bourbon bar. Well, the bourbon bar, we saw the article. I'm like, well, we're going to have a bourbon bar. I'm like, we're going to have a lot of bourbon, but not a bourbon bar. But we didn't really think much of it. So then once people found out that it was us, they started coming up to us and being, oh, you guys are going to have a bourbon bar. And we're like, yeah, we're going to have a bourbon bar. So it got to the point where people were talking more about the bourbon bar than they were about the food. And Frank and I just kind of looked at each other like, so yeah, I guess we're going to have a bourbon bar.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
I thought you guys were a bar. When I first saw it, I'm like, wow, nice. A little bar and grills coming up on base, another place to hang out. And I saw the bourbon piece. And then when you posted it, Chris, I saw it. I'm like, all right, well, they're going to have it's going to be a place we can go eat. So I thought it was pretty cool, but I thought you were straight bar when I saw the name when you guys started.
Yeah, no. Sandwich, soup, salads, and bourbon.
So you guys
makes sense anyways, because I mean, like we had said, there's just you go to your average bar, they have a good selection of stuff. And don't get me wrong, we're gonna have everything. It's not just bourbon by any means, but trying to find a good selection of bourbons at your average bar is sometimes a little hard. And I guess it depends on what you think good bourbons are or whatever. But that was part of our goal too, because we kept saying how we were going to have a really nice selection of bourbons. So, I mean, the bourbon bar was actually pretty fitting in the end run.
So have you guys had, there's always people out there that'll try to knock you down, and Rome's a small town where, Chris, you're exactly right. Everybody knows everything in this town. Was there ever a time you guys have looked back, and I know you haven't officially opened up yet, where you said to yourself, are we sure this was the right thing to do? I mean, you won't know it until you open the doors and you see how business is. But have you guys thought about that and say, well, what if this doesn't work?
So we had someone post in People's Places and Things of Rome, New York, that we were opening this place after I think the Sentinel posted an article about us. And it took off like crazy, and I went through every single comment. I was like glued to my phone every time a new comment came up. I was looking at it, Like, what did they think? And I can tell you that I don't think there was any negative comment, to the point where someone like started a group chat with Frank and I and said, I just wanted to congratulate you that you two opening Crust is like the first post on this page that had 0 negative comments.
That's awesome.
I mean, to be completely honest with you, we were both taken back by that. You know, I mean, it shows an awesome thing about our community. And, you know, it really gives us a lot of fire to keep moving forward too.
You know, I was just going to say that, guys, is the common theme here with all the businesses that I've had on, even, you know, during COVID, when originally we got shut down, they've all said that the local support for people supporting local business has been phenomenal. You know, ordering out and just supporting and knowing the hard work. And it's, you know, it's a 7-day a week, you know, you got to be there from sun up to sundown. You're putting in a lot of hours. So you guys hit it right on the head. This community really has rallied around a lot of the local businesses.
Yeah, I can't speak for Crust in terms of like patronage, but from the Savoy during COVID when we were shut down, it was very, very humbling, the amount of people that, I mean, customers that have been coming to the Savoy for longer than I've been alive, ordering takeout, customers that just were brand new and wanted to try our takeout order. I mean, there is absolutely nothing I can say to the extent of how overwhelmed I was with how gracious everyone was and understanding that we were so understaffed because there was only 3 of us.
Right.
And like, there was times when I'd walk into the bar, like to bring food to people, for takeout, that the bar was full. And I'm like, we need to like figure this out because we can't have people right next to each other during a pandemic when they're supposed to be 6 feet apart and they're really not supposed to be this many people in the room. So we like went through and completely reconfigured the Savoy, and we figured it out, and then it worked better. And it was a big learning curve. And this community was the most supportive I've ever seen them throughout the whole thing. Just going with it, not really giving us a hard time. They understood that that's not how we wanted it. We wanted everyone to come back and eat and dine in, but it wasn't our call. And I can't thank them enough.
You guys, what's been some good advice that each of you have gotten for some people, whether it's family, friends, people even in the business, restaurant business, or maybe not just the restaurant business, could be any business. What's been some words of wisdom that you guys have received?
I'll say one. Well, I mean, there's plenty of people in general, you know, that we know or they're close to us. But one thing that was actually interesting is I happened to, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, not only were we doing the cleaning and all the other things, we were doing literally everything in the restaurant. So there would be days we come in early and we're mopping and sweeping and cleaning toilets and doing all that stuff in the morning. So I happened to stumble across a podcast, oddly enough, that it was designed specifically for restaurants. And I started listening to it, and I talked, you know, I said, hey, Chris, you should check this out. Next thing you know, we were just gobbling up every episode. And it was interesting because basically there's a guy who travels around meeting with restaurant tours, and he just gets their opinions. How did they start? I mean, from the ground up. So, I mean, listening to hundreds of those was super helpful to us too, because it gave us a lot of framework. I mean, we've been in the business our whole life, but, you know, starting something from scratch is obviously a little bit different too. So something like that was oddly helpful to us. And then, you know, moving forward, obviously, once more people found out, we could talk to more people about it. You know, the close people, like, you know, the Destito, Ori Destito, and some of the other businesses we're working with, like our friends that have businesses in Rome and stuff, have been helping out tremendously. We're, you know, trying to use as many local people as we can, you know, try to keep everything local. So.
And Chris, how about yourself? I'm sure you got a lot of words of wisdom from a lot of different people.
Yeah, I mean, I did. I guess there was a lot of words of wisdom, and everyone wants not sarcastically, everyone wants to give like their best intentions when they give you advice. And for the most part, I mean, we've listened to it all and we've taken it all in. A lot of it we've already thought about and tried to, but I'm not going to pretend like I had every base covered. But I will say that my kind of philosophy is surround yourself with people that know exactly what they're doing. And you can verify that they know exactly what they're doing and kind of let them do their thing. It's really like how I kind of do everything in my life. I try to find people that I know are really good at it and let them be creative. Just as an example, our countertop for our bar, we had this one guy, Dave, make it, and he was like calling and asking questions, and I'm like, Dave, I'm not going to be the one to tell you how to make a bar top. I'm like, you know what you're doing, you know the way you want to do it, just do it. And he made the most beautiful bar top I've ever seen. So I mean, in terms of business advice, there's been a lot, and I appreciate all of it. But I think we're going to have to figure some of it out ourselves and go from there.
So you guys, what's the timeline? I know you didn't have the answer to this, but what's the timeline on when we think the doors will open and we can come see you guys and give Crust a shot?
The month of August. Anytime. We're trying to open in August.
We're slicing through all the red tape we can right now. So, obviously we want to be open as fast as possible. But that's our goal, is just to be open by the end of August.
But you can stop and see us anytime you want. We're there.
How about staffing, guys? I know it's been really tough, even for the business I'm in here. It's been really tough to try to find help, with the unemployment and all that. How many employees you guys going to have? Are you still looking to hire people? Can people reach out to you guys if they're interested?
Absolutely can.
Okay.
Yep.
We fired a handful of people already. We're definitely going to need some more people, but yeah, we fired 5 or 6 people already, and we're definitely going to look for more. We've been holding open interviews throughout the week, which we've been posting on social media and stuff like that. So we're just going to keep plugging along and try to find the right team. I mean, we're trying to build, and I've been saying this even during our interviews, but we're trying to build a culture there around Crust, where it's a place people want to come and work and care about what they're doing and care about the customers and what they're putting out and things like that. I mean, it's easy to say that because, people will just, work for a paycheck, but we want it to be more than that. So, I mean, we're definitely trying to find the right team of people. That being said, obviously it's a little hard to find, help at this moment in time. So far we've been lucky with the people we have been interviewing and hiring. So, I mean, I'm feeling optimistic about it.
You guys, the last question I had, I did see where Silver City Baking Company, you guys are partnering with them too. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah. Andrea is a wonderful baker. Frank and I hate baking, and she makes delicious baked goods, and we're going to be her Rome location. We're going to be doing everything from different cookies, pound cakes. We'll have like Christmas cookies that you can order from her. And we'll be like a location for you to pick them up. But she was on the Great American Bake Off, or baking show. She came in second. And she's on another show, which I can't remember the name, but it only had 1 season on Food Network, and I became addicted to it, and I like binge watched it. It's about this family up in Lake George. Three of the members of the family own different restaurants, and she was the baker at one of them. But she's wonderful. The stuff she's made for us is unbelievable. We've eaten it a few times now. But she's gonna do
Summer Rush or something like that, wasn't it?
Summer Rush, yeah. She's gonna do just like all our dessert stuff. But yeah, she's great.
Well, you guys, I'm excited. I know all of us are excited to come check you guys out, and can't wait to get down there and see the place and try everything. But again, the bourbon piece, you guys are gonna have to help me out because I'm not a bourbon guy. Something sauce, ease me into it.
So my girlfriend, just this last story. My girlfriend never really liked bourbon before we started dating, and she would actually like try sipping my bourbon, and she'd have this face like,
yeah, that would be me.
And then so now she's drinking it just like I can, with just on the rocks. And I told her, I'm like, listen, bourbon's a slippery slope. It's hard to get going, and then once you acquire the taste for it, it's the only thing you're going to want to drink. And she's kind of there.
Well, I'll have to definitely give it a shot, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate you both coming on here with me tonight, and we're all excited for you. We wish you nothing but the best of luck, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
So I'm really excited. A lot of people are excited to try Crust right up here on base. I'll be close to it, so I'll definitely give them a shot. And nothing but best of luck to Chris and Frank and for coming on here tonight with me. And I will be off next week. We're moving. I got to move into a new office, so I'll be in the process of moving next week. So I'll be probably back on in a couple of weeks. I'll let you know who the next guest is. I got a surprise for everybody, but I'll introduce it probably mid next week and let everybody know. It'll still be the same time, Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, but I got to take a week off to get situated. So again, thanks to Frank. Thanks for Chris for coming on here tonight. And as I say every Wednesday night, the Rock Pile is where dreams become reality. Have a good evening, everybody.